Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Psycho Builds, and within today's video I'm going to be challenging myself to build something completely random within 1 hour using UEFN. So the way it's going to work is I have a list of 8 different topics that are completely random that I put into a random wheel generator. I'm going to spin the wheel, and whatever it lands on, I'm going to give myself only 1 hour to try to build that topic the best that I can. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it and let's spin the wheel. And it looks like we're building an apocalypse. So whenever I was thinking of the 8 different topics to put in the wheel, I kind of had an idea of what I could build for like each different topic if it landed on one of them. And I kind of have an idea of what I might try to build for this one, but we'll just see how it goes. Let's just get into the editor and let's start working. So I wasn't really too sure how to put a timer on screen so that you guys can see how much time is left while I'm doing the time lapse of the video. And I didn't feel like trying to hassle with figuring out how to do that. So for this video, I just recorded or put the timer on my iPhone and then screen recorded it. However, if I do this again in future videos, I'll be sure to try to figure out how to do that and put the timer on screen. So now that the timer is going, it's time to start building. So what I'm thinking for the idea of this map in general is I kind of want to build like an abandoned street, showing like the apocalypse that kind of happened with like a lot of abandoned cars and maybe some overgrowing vegetation and some abandoned buildings in the background and maybe some stuff on fire. Either way, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to build the streets and just kind of take a look at what I'm doing to build the streets. I'm using some pretty unique props. So I think I'm using a little street from the sidewalk gallery as well as like some parking stripes. And then what I'm going to try to do is I'm trying to make it like a 3-lane road with sidewalks on each side. And it's kind of hard to get perfect positions for the lanes of the road. So what I'm using is a Fortnite car prop to kind of like get the exact placements of making all the 3 of the lanes even. So now that I've kind of outlined the idea of how I want the road to be with 3 lanes, I decided that it would look even better if I put a little task force barrier in the middle of the road, like on the sidewalk, so that there's like a median, as well as I decided to place in a straight light right in the middle of the barriers. And now that I've made this one whole little prop, like with the roads, I can just highlight and copy this whole thing, and if you want to, you can group it by pressing Ctrl-G in UEFN. However, I didn't do that. And you can just keep copying and pasting this road over and over again so that you can keep expanding the length of the road. So now that I've finished placing down the roads, I think that the roads look pretty good at the moment. However, later on I'm going to add more stuff and more detailing to the roads, like some cars and vegetation. But for the sake of time, this city wouldn't look like a city if there wasn't buildings in the background. So right now what I'm trying to do is I'm working on a design for building background buildings and everything. And I kind of struggled with how I wanted the buildings to look initially. I kept debating between like a modern look or like an industrial type of style buildings, and ultimately I decided to go with an industrial style type of building. So I used like a brick texturing, as well as I'm using like a pillar from like the layer gallery, and I'm finding walls from like the factory gallery and all that kind of stuff. So right now I'm just working on building the buildings. So now that I've made the first floor of the first building, I decided that I'm just going to highlight the whole thing. And here's a really quick and useful tip when working in UEFN. If you highlight and select every single prop that you just placed down and you want to group it together so that it acts like one prop, just press Ctrl-G on the keyboard, and then it'll make it like its own standalone prop. Like every time you deselect and then select all of the grouped items, it'll just be one thing. And so I grouped it here so that I can just keep copying and pasting each floor of the building as it goes higher. And then if you wanted to unselect it as a group, all you have to do is just go to the outliner and then right click on any of the props that are selected whenever you select them. And then you just go down to the groups tab, and then you can just remove from group and you can unlock them so you can edit it from there. And then you can even ungroup them. Either way, I decided that I wanted to try to build this building probably like 6-7 stories. And then I'm going to try to build a little basketball court off to the side, and then another building to fill up the road space. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to make the city feel like it's a little bit more of a city by adding in some recreational items such as a basketball court. And then I decided to add in the brick wall in the background of the basketball court just so that you can't see through the other side of the map. And I'll probably add some like trees and vegetation growing over the brick walls. And at the moment I'm kind of just working on getting the scale and size of how big I want the basketball court to be. I don't want it to take up too much space of the MOC because I still want to build another building off to the right side. But by adding this basketball court, I feel like it's really going to bring some characteristics and some life to the whole map. And so now you can see I started working on the next building off to the right side of the map. I want this building to have a different brick texture than the rest, just so that it stands out and gives a little bit of variety and variation to the map. And I don't want this building to be as tall or big as the other one because I want the buildings to look like it's a little bit different sizes. I want more variation. And so I'm gonna build this one a little bit smaller, like in height and width. And so while I was finishing up working on the second building, I decided I didn't really like how the roof looked on the first building, and so I decided to take the little layer pillars and size them a little bit more and scale them a little bit more and then raise it up just so that there's like a second level to the roof. And I'm also going to apply that same building tactic to the smaller building that I'm building at the moment. While I was finishing up building the second building, I decided that even though I'm trying to go for an industrial look for these buildings, I felt like the second building was just a little bit too plain with the same texture over and over again, and it looked a little bit too much like a copy and paste build. So to give it a little bit of variation and variety, I decided to start looking for a couple of like pillars and other props that might work to give it a little bit more of that variation and make it stand out a little bit more. So here comes the part that I've personally been really excited for. I've been waiting for this the entire time. All the buildings and everything that I've been building, that's just like some background additional details to make the whole map come to life. But the whole reason I even put this map on the list was because I wanted to build a street that just looked flooded with cars, lots of traffic, like people are trying to evacuate and leave a city, something straight out of World War Z or any kind of zombie or apocalypse movie, end of the world disaster scenario where people are just flooding the roads with their cars and nobody can move, everybody's going 1 mile an hour. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start adding in a whole bunch of Fortnite cars to make this whole road just really look packed. So at the moment what I'm doing is I'm just kind of browsing through and looking for different Fortnite props and different cars and stuff that I feel like would really work. I decided to add in a couple of RVs, some 18-wheelers and semi-trucks, and different car props that Fortnite has available for me to use. And then later on I'm even gonna add in like a wrecked helicopter somewhere within the road. I'm not really too sure yet where I'm gonna add that. But yeah, at the moment I'm just working on filling up this road, making it look super jam-packed with a bunch of cars and traffic. And as I'm working on placing in all these different cars, I want you all to take note that I'm really focusing on rotating and placing each car in a different direction and a different spot, just so that it gives the map more variety. I'm using different color cars, different size cars, different varieties of cars in different areas, just so that the map doesn't look too repetitive and too copy and paste. And that same principle can be applied to a lot of different aspects of building within UEFN or Creative 2.0. For example, using like trees and foliage and terrain, placing every single thing in different areas and rotating it and resizing it. Variety just helps bring your maps so much more to life. And as you can see here, I'm now working on placing in that crashed helicopter. I'm using the stock helicopter Fortnite prop from the movie sets, and what I'm going to do next is place a bunch of like rubble props all around it, and there's some rubble props that are textured with like a little bit of glowing fire, and I'm going to work in the ones without the fire and the ones with the fire, and then I'm going to place in a little bit of like asteroid, I think it was the asteroid gallery fire props, to make it look like the helicopter like is on fire, it crashed, and it's breaking the road a little bit. And overall, I think it was a good idea to add in the burning helicopter, showing that it like just crashed and it's breaking the road a little bit. And I think I'm gonna apply the same tactic to a couple of the cars too, to make it look like they're burning. And so now you can see that I started working on the foliage aspect of the map. And so my initial thought process of the design of this map is I wanted to make it look and feel like it had been some time since ground zero, the first day of the apocalypse had passed, like it had been a couple of months or years. And so I kind of wanted to make the roads and the buildings look like it's been overgrown with vegetation, and the vegetation has just grown around human civilization. And what I'm doing for the foliage here is, instead of using any of the grass pieces, because there are some grass pieces in Fortnite that would have worked, I decided to take the corn prop instead of the grass pieces and use that as the grass, just by peaking the tops of it a little bit above the surface of the road. And I'm just going to keep placing this everywhere all along the road. Every time I'm placing the cornfield prop, I'm rotating it, twisting it, moving it up and down different areas, just to give some of the foliage the feeling like it had been thicker and grown taller in certain areas and shorter in certain areas. And I'm just gonna go ahead and finish out the rest of the road like this. I'm even gonna add some of the grass to the basketball court too. And then after I finish placing all the foliage over the roads, I'll start working on the buildings. And I forgot to mention that after I was done with the foliage, before I started working on the buildings, I decided to add in a couple of like tents and like sleeping bags and junk piles and trash piles and stuff like that, just to make it look a little bit more like realistic and give the map a little bit more character and life to it. And while I'm adding in some of these minor details to the map, I think that now is a good time to remind you guys that I am working on a timer here. I only had 1 hour to complete this map, and right now I think I only have like 10 to 20 minutes left. But I'm glad I was able to add in some of these minor details, such as like the junk piles and the trash and the sleeping bags and the camping tents, just because I feel like it brings a little bit more life to the map, makes it look like people had been living on the streets and stuff, makes everything look just a little bit more abandoned and apocalyptic. Alright guys, so now we can start working on adding some foliage to the buildings, making it look like the buildings have been overgrown with a lot of vegetation. And the way that I decided to do that was by taking a vine and just adding the vines all around the building, and following the same principle that I always use of rotating the vines, sizing them in different shapes, putting them in different areas, just to make the foliage really come to life and look like it's been growing out of the building for a while. And then after I apply the foliage to both of the buildings, I'm going to go back and add a couple of those little fire things to the windows of the buildings, just to make it look like some of the buildings have been caught on fire. Now, before I add in the fire props to the windows of the buildings, I decided that I should probably take a primitive shape and make it the right size and put that in the background of the buildings so that the windows look black, like there's no power in the buildings or something. And the only reason I did this is just because I didn't like how you could see through all the windows of the building and it was just a blue sky background. And I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, but I decided that I didn't have enough time to build a full building, and you're not really meant to look at the map from the other side. So I didn't build the buildings all the way around. Therefore, I think that by adding this black primitive cube to the background of the windows would make the map look a lot better. And so now I'm just working on adding the final finishing touches to the buildings by adding a couple of bushes sticking out of the walls, and then also adding some fire props to the windows. And then after I finish up the final details on the buildings, I decided that by the basketball court, that little brick wall, I didn't like how you could see the blue sky over the wall and there was just nothing back there. So what I did is I took some oak trees and I just kept them the same size, rotated them, placed them in different positions, and then just to kind of give it that feel like the trees are overgrowing the wall, like there's some landscape and some trees back there, just so that it's not just a blank sky. And while I was working on finishing up these final touches, the timer started to really run down. I think that at this point right now I probably only had about 5 or 6 minutes left, but luckily the map was pretty much done. And so after the rest of this time-lapse plays out, what I'll do is I'll just do a quick little video montage showcasing the entire map. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the time-lapse of me building the map. After this video montage plays out, I'll come back and we'll talk about the results. See you guys in a second. Alright guys, so I literally finished this map within like 4 minutes to spare. Being on a 1-hour timer was super hard. There was definitely some other things I wish I could have done to this map to make it look a little bit better, but being limited to the time, I really didn't have any extra time to do anything else. As well as I didn't record this part, but I decided to go back and put in the creature device so that I can record some cool gameplay footage to add into the video montage of me fighting some of the alien zombie looking creatures, just to make the little montage video stand out and look a little bit better. Either way guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it's inspired you to go and build something amazing for yourself. If you guys like these little 1-hour build challenges, please let me know in the comments. I would love to do more. There's a whole bunch more on that list that I really want to build. As well as I hope that you guys have learned a tip or trick from this video that you can use in some of your own maps. And if you think that I should actually go ahead and publish this map and make it like an actual gameplay, leave some suggestions of what like game mode you think I should do in the comments as well. Maybe something like a zombie apocalypse with the creature device, or just anything else really. I can go ahead and work on expanding the map as well and make it more like gameplay ready. Whatever you guys think, so just go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you guys think. Either way guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and it's been a pleasure. I'll see you guys next time on Psycho Builds. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend.